Welcome to our last town hall to meet your 2023 candidates for our board of directors. My name is Vanessa. I am a member of the nomination committee and I will be your moderator today. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I will be your co-host. That means that if you have any questions or comments, I'm the person that you can send those questions and comments to. I'll be helping to facilitate and back up and support Vanessa. I'll also be helping to facilitate the second half of our event, which is questions from our members. For your panelists, Christine will give you a 30-second and a time. And if you could just make sure that you acknowledge that you heard her so that she knows that you heard her and she doesn't have to repeat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Our outline for today involves a brief opening and closing with questions for the candidates in between. So we'll first provide some information about what the board does, and then I'll ask the candidates questions. So we will open the chat for questions from participants as well, and then we'll close the meeting with the next steps and a dedication of merit. Our town hall is scheduled to last around 90 minutes, and one of the most important aspects of this process is getting every member of RDG to register to vote. Any member can register by going to our website to vote. And Chris will post that in the chat as well, the website link for you to register to vote. Okay, and we'll now briefly review the role of the RDG Board of Directors. And I think Chris will share his screen. Okay, so what do we do? Our non-profit RDG, we're committed to taking tangible and concrete actions to support the inclusion of all members of the Global Sangha. And we elect board members to serve as volunteers for the organization in addition to the legal duties of a non-profit board. And our core intentions and responsibilities include these following tasks. Develop, publish, and distribute recovery-oriented material, and that will mostly fall under the communications committee's responsibility. Maintaining a list of recovery Dharma meetings and communities. Provide support for social media, communication, websites, and other online collaboration, and coordinate and support regional and global conferences like the summit and other training opportunities. For instance, right now the board is working toward a diversity training, and before we had a fundraising training on the board. Okay, thank you for sharing your screen, Chris. Oh, I came back to me being spotlighted. That was very uncomfortable for me to see. Okay, and Chris, if you don't mind posting that about page in the chat as well, appreciate that. And you can find out more by going to Recovery Dharma, our website. This page is related to the business and governance of the RDG nonprofit. It is where you can find the monthly board meeting minutes, the committee reports, and financial documents. We aim to update the community about approved minutes every single month, and I have been trying to post that on the website as well. Okay, so now we will meet our candidates. I think all the candidates are here, so I'm gonna call on our candidates, and once I call on you, please introduce yourself, your name, your preferred pronouns, and where you live. So let's start with Jim.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Jim. I live in Philadelphia. I helped start the Southwest Sangha. My pronouns are he and him.
Thank you so much, Jim. And then next, Bryant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Bellarmino. I live in Los Angeles. I go by he and him, and I've been involved with the Los Angeles Sanghas for a number of years, so it's great to see you all.
Thank you, Brian. And then next we have Valentine. Ooh, you're muted.
Hello, I'm Valentine. I use they, them pronouns. I am located here in San Diego, California, and yeah, part of the greater Southern California Sangha. Hopefully we can get our Sanghas together soon.
Okay, thank you, Valentine. And then it's Tom.
Hey friends, this is Thomas, and I go by they them. It's from California, and it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And then we have Steve.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Whitten. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm calling in from Tempe, Arizona, which is the ancestral lands of the Akimel O'odham or Upper Pima community. And it is an honor to share this space with you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay. Thank you. And we will now dive directly into the questions. We have 3 questions today, and we'll post the question in the chat as well, and each candidate will have 3 minutes to answer. The first question is, how has the work of Recovery Dharma Global been beneficial to you and your Sangha of wise friends? And I can go ahead and post this question in the chat. Oh, I can't. I think Chris will do that. And so again, I'll go in that same order, and I'll call on the candidates. And once you've been called upon, please be mindful of your 3 minutes. So let's start with Jim.
Hi, I don't see the question. Can you just repeat it for me, please? I'm sorry.
Of course, let me read it one more time. How has the work of Recovery Dharma Global been beneficial to you and your Sangha of wise friends?
Okay, well, it's been beneficial to me because okay, so I've been in recovery several years, better part of 9 years, a couple hiccups in between. I did 12-step programs, and I'm still involved with some 12-step programs. However, it was Recovery Dharma that helped me change the way I think. See, I heard in 12-step rooms for so long, I have to change the way I think. And someone like myself, I need to be told how to do that. I can't just do it. Once I got involved with Recovery Dharma, I started reading the book, and I knew right then, I was like, this is going to help me change the way I think. Like things like, the Eightfold Path, like, even though that's something that should seem like it's common sense, to me, it wasn't. And I didn't realize how important it is to apply these things into my day-to-day life to make me become a better person, and to help me, to love myself enough to where I wouldn't want to put harmful chemicals in my body or abstain from, unhealthy behaviors. And what was the second part about? How does it, what about my friends? I'm sorry. Is that it?
That's a really good answer, but I wanted to clarify, did you mean the second part of this question?
Yes.
Oh, it says, how has the work of Recovery Dharma Global been beneficial to you and your Sangha of wise friends?
Okay. Well, it's been beneficial to our Sangha because there's like a lot of folks who, were turned off by 12-step rooms and other paths of recovery. And this gave them like a nice alternative. And at the same time, like, similar to myself, some people did 12-step programs, but there was just something missing. And I think Recovery Dharma has really just helped fill that void for a lot of people. I mean, living in the city of Philadelphia, it's a very diverse community. There's a strong LGBTQ presence here. A lot of meetings are very inclusive to those folks. However, a lot of those folks also feel like there's a level of, I hate to say it, but there's a level of discrimination in those rooms. And Recovery Dharma isn't about that. Like, we welcome everybody. So it's just nice to be able to have that safe space for so many different types of people with all one thing in common, and that's our disease of addiction.
Thank you so much, Jim. And next we have Brian for the same question.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Jim, for sharing that. For when I was thinking about this question, I was like, what exactly did I use Recovery Dharma Global for? I was part of Refuge Recovery, and when that thing fell apart, I kind of took a step back, especially during the pandemic. And so I was like, what is it I do to participate? And the truth of the matter is, what I appreciate and love about Recovery Dharma Global is the work they do to make our program so accessible and flexible for people. You know, the book is free. It's on the website. Like with refuge recovery, it costs us a lot of money every Sangha, $15, $18, and we couldn't give the book away. Like we had to pick and choose, or people had to sponsor. And here, our Sanghas have enough money to buy books every week. I buy books, 10 books at a time. It's not a very cost burdensome for us. And then at the same time, if someone can't have it, I send the link, and it's amazing that I can do that. And there's so much material that's available from RDG. You know, I really don't have to stretch to finding YouTubes or anything. Like I just mentioned, if you want the meditations, they're on YouTube. If you want the meditations, they're on Recovery Dharma Global. Like there's places to go that people have it. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about RDG is we're open. You know, we are here to bring in different perspectives. The path is a path. You know, we've had this practice for 2,600 years, but how it comes alive of us is what makes it special. And so that's what I see with RDG is the potential for us to bring more people in and grow it, whether it's through the books, the meeting materials, you know, even the quality, the materials that are in the book and the handouts, right? So trauma informed, trauma attachment. You know, that diversity statement that we have. You know, it's very mindful of the different folks that we have that come to us, and we don't shun away from other programs as well. So, you know, I think for me, that's what's been beneficial, not only for myself, because there's so much that make up recovery, but for people, I mean, like, I don't have to worry about forcing you into one path. I'm like, there's multiple ways that you can engage with us, and most of them find it for the website. And then the other part is, you all do a great job of keeping, again, like very cost effective. Like even if sometimes people complain about the meetings, like it's easy to update the meetings. It's just kind of a pain to scroll, and I know it's changing, but like everything we need is easy and people are responsive. So I'm appreciative of that because it makes our work connecting with people in meetings so much more easier and meaningful.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Next, we have Valentine.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so thinking about Recovery Dharma Global and its impact on me and my community, I remember attending the very first Recovery Dharma meeting in Chicago, which itself formed out of a spontaneous need for safe space at a recovery summit. That was when I met many of the past and current members of the board of directors, including Jean Toller, who was the first president of Recovery Dharma Global. And she made a huge impact on my life and my recovery. Because I was, back then I was living in a smaller city, Olympia, Washington, and was dealing with harassment and bullying from members of our inner Sangha at the time. And Jean took the time to meet with me and my Sangha and guided us through that. And I just remember how alone I felt because I didn't know other people that were involved in leadership in Recovery Dharma. And, you know, it was Recovery Dharma, the board of directors, that really helped us through this time. And that's really the impact of Recovery Dharma Global, is they offer their time and energy to show up, find ways to aid, you know, the greater Recovery Dharma community at large and support all the different Sanghas and the safety of the Sanghas. Yeah, and then, you know, Recovery Dharma Global is responsible for the beautiful book that we have and the summits that we have every year. I also know that in the back end, Recovery Dharma is doing all the businessy stuff that itself is probably a miracle to keep up with. I also remember a time when there wasn't a Recovery Dharma BIPOC meeting. And, you know, I worked together with a few friends of mine in RD and communicated with Recovery Dharma Online, and a small group of us put that together. And over the years, yeah, I've volunteered my time with Recovery Dharma Global. I helped out with social media. I've looked over literature with a group. I'm currently a member of the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility Committee, or IDEA Committee for short. And as a non-binary human with Mexican heritage, it means the world to me that this impact or this committee exists. So the impact of Recovery Dharma Global on my life and recovery, I'd say, has been invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentine. And then next we have Tom.
Hey, good people. All right. So this question, I'm reading it here. It's like, without RDG, I think I never would have met my wise friends at all. So thank you. And there's also a special type of people that RD brings together. I think we all strive for this ideal of the 4 heart practices. We're compassionate, we're appreciative of each other, we're kind to each other, and we're equanimous. At least we try to be. And this is where I feel at home, where I feel safe to heal. And I thank RDG for the gift of Sangha. So secondly is RDG's literature. I mean, I was exposed to the Dharma in 2019. And that was, okay, I was 39, the young age of 39. But I actually doubted that the Dharma would work for me because I'd been in 12-step for like a decade before that. And with 12-step, it's like I could see people that had 30 years of sobriety and they would raise their hand and I could feel like, all right, this program works for someone. But how could I trust this program if just a few months ago they came out with this book and this program? But as I read further into the book, it was like, oh my gosh, this is a program of recovery that has helped people worldwide for 2,500 years over. So if there's any program of recovery has been proven, time-tested, ageless, and verified, it's Recovery Dharma. And I love that about it. So Recovery Dharma wins hands down. And I confess that I like going to, instead of 4 fellowships, I just have to go to 1. It's 1 fellowship for all addictions. And that's a miracle to me. So I thank RDG for the gift of the Dharma. And thirdly is this daily meditation thing. It's always been hard for therapists to try to get me to meditate every day. And I finally found it through finding Recovery Dharma, where group meditation was in every meeting. I joke with my therapist saying, you could have just handed me this pamphlet and say, go to 90 meetings of these in 90 days, and I would have been set. But seriously,
30 seconds.
Thank you. Really, I owe it to daily meditation to Recovery Dharma Global and discovering my inner Buddha. So ultimately, my answer to this question is the same as my refuge, the Buddha Dharma Sangha. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And then we have Steve.
Thank you, everybody. When I hear Recovery Dharma, to me, Recovery Dharma, recovery comes first. And practice. And the organization, Recovery Dharma Global, has made those resources available. My passion is going to treatment centers and spreading the word of Recovery Dharma. I've gone to detoxes, over a half a dozen different treatment centers. And what Recovery Dharma Global does is it shows that we're more than just some ragtag program that people can do in recovery. I can direct people to the website. It shows that we are a worldwide movement. The second thing that Global's done is since the beginning in 2019, I wanted to get into taking meetings to places. And they hooked me up with people that also did work in treatment centers. So with those connections, I got to learn more about what it was like. We got to share materials at the grassroots level. One of the people that through that, I built connections on connections on connections. One of the people is my ally spreading the word, who's also my opponent, Tom, who's through their organization and their work on pamphlets, worked together along with other friends to come up with all kinds of stuff. I've had my printer work overtime over these last 3 years. And I've printed out over 10,000 meeting lists, flyers, just to spread the word of Recovery Dharma. I've seen it grow here locally from 4 or 5 meetings in 2019 to where now we have 13 in-person meetings, 3 online meetings, 2 closed meetings at treatment centers, and there's even an inquiry circle forming. So just those connections and growing with each other. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the book. I cannot get enough of this book. Through our Sangha's efforts, we've given out over 600 of them in the Valley over the last 3 years. I personally commit to buying around 100 of them a year. I've asked and solicited and begged for donations. I've even helped set up 2 meetings where all the dana in the meeting goes to books for the residents of the treatment centers. And through those, I've been able to reach people that I would have never met before. The first meeting I started was at a treatment center that had a contract with the 3 affiliated tribes in North Dakota. Somehow that happened here in Arizona. So books have made it to North Dakota, given hundreds to the women at treatment centers where I take a meeting on Fridays. I don't even facilitate that meeting, just support it. And none of this would have been possible without the organization of Recovery Dharma. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you everyone for answering that question. And now we'll move on to our second question. What is a committee or project you would like to work on as a board member? And I think I can post that in the chat.
Yeah,
it's still already.
Yep, yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so again, the question is, what is a committee or project that you would like to work on as a board member? And I'll go in the same order as we've been doing before. So I'll start with Jim.
Okay, hello again, all. So I think a good project for us to work on, being that Recovery Dharma is relatively young, and so like my answer, it's kind of based on some of the other answers I've seen. It's something I agree with. I would like to see a more like structured like mentorship program, more of like a structured like inquiry type program. Like, so what I run into in our Sangha is a lot of people come in and they're not about 12 steps. They don't want nothing to do with 12-step programs, and that's fine. But then they ask like, well, how does this work? Do I get a sponsor? Like, is there steps? Or if there's no steps, like, what do I do? Like, what is the work involved besides, just showing up at the meetings and, just helping out? And I'd like to, I would like to see something put in place to where there is like more of like a structured type of program, not necessarily step work, but some type of, accountability for people, myself included, to to work on their recovery, to work on themselves, and then in hindsight be able to pass that on to somebody new coming in. So I mean, I hate to bring up 12-step programs, but they do have processes that have been proven to work, whether it's like it's the senior people helping out the newcomer eventually moves on, and then they get some time, then they help out the newcomer. Like, that has been proven to work. It's the fellowship, it's the Sangha. And I would just like to see something like that, whether I think Valentine wrote something about like doing like even like a workbook. I know Narcotics Anonymous does a workbook. I mean, I think that's a great idea. That's something I would love to see put in place. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Jim. And next we have Bryant.
There's so many areas to touch. I think the part that speaks to me the most is kind of a combination of outreach and sharing stories, putting a personal touch to Recovery Dharma. Personally for me, the program is the program, right? We can read the book, you can work the questions, you can understand the Four Noble Truths, but what brings it alive again is like embodying these. How do you put this in action? How is it coming forward in your life? And when I talk to people who are sincerely demonstrating how they're trying to integrate the Four Noble Truths, they're trying to do the Eightfold Path, and then it's spreading the news, that's like motivating for me, right? It's, I get out of my head, I can see how it works in them. Maybe it's new ideas. So some of the things, that I've been talking about, and Stefan has been great pushing me with the Califront, honestly, I'd love to be able to put initiatives where we're inviting the Sangha to create their stories, putting faces to it. So it's more than just here's a book. It's more than just meditate. This is how it's coming alive in them and how they're sharing it around. So whether it's, podcast or a YouTube special or just even the quick shorts that we can share around to people, just so that people can start seeing how Recovery Dharma is improving or enhancing or whatever the words you want to use, making your life different than what it was, because that's all we want to come from. And the other part is a lot of outreach. And so I really liked what Steve had said. We personally, for me, we've done in the past, going to different nonprofits or events like Shatterproof, just setting up a table. And here are people just coming from all walks of life of recovery, and we're just there to set the seed or share it. Just come over, you're curious, you're here to say hello, take a book. And it's really making that connection. Because the one thing that stood out, I'm trying to understand more about and learn about Buddhism. And I love that saying of, wise friends, it's all the path. It's all the path. That's how we connect. And so we can teach, we can learn, but when we share with each other, that's how we grow and we find the support. And so those are the two projects I think I'd love to work on. We're doing it with LA, so it'd be great to come to RDG and do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And then we have Valentine.
Oh, hello. Yeah, so if I was elected to be a board member, I'd love to, continue my work on the idea committee, help out with communications. I'd love to help out with the summit because I have experience organizing a recovery summit for my time on the board of directors for Buddhist Recovery Network. And Brian, what Brian was saying about a podcast, that would be really cool. I would be down to help out with that because I've started 2 other recovery podcasts. One was Buddhist Recovery Network podcast, other Recovery Disco. And podcasts are a great way to get the word out and spread the word about what we're doing, what Recovery Dharma is doing. And then like Jim said, my workbook idea, I would that's something I feel like very pregnant with. And even 2 years ago when I ran for the board, I talked about this a bit too, about wanting to create kind of ways like worksheets, ways that can help people map out and have structure for their empowerment focused Buddhist recovery program. I've spent the last 6 years of my recovery reading and researching both Buddhism and modern recovery. And my recovery hasn't just been in Recovery Dharma, it's also been in Smart Recovery, Monument, Tempest, Ignited, 8-Step Recovery, and others. And all of the other modern recovery programs, they have a plethora of worksheets and guidebooks and practices. And I think that Buddhism and Recovery Dharma community, I think there's just so much wisdom that we have that we could channel into workbooks, into a workbook. There are specifically things that could help people map out like how to have a holistic recovery program. So we talk in the book about us being an empowerment focused recovery program. We talk about being a holistic recovery program, but really in order to be both of those things, we need, I think, more information about what it means to have an empowered recovery program, what it means to holistically take care of yourself. And so, I think that besides just having tools that help people focus on their, the mental health and spiritual wellness, but also tools that help people map out their physical, social, internal, external, and environmental wellness as well. And there's so many different Buddhist teachings that touch on these subjects that we could incorporate into tools that people could use. And I would just love to be a part of, helping create that and helping be able to offer that to our greater recovery
30 seconds.
Dharma committee. Yeah, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Valentine. And then we have Tom.
Hi, friends. All right. So if you've seen that page rd.rocks, that's something I worked on. So you know that I'm really passionate about communications and literature and empowering other people. So I've done that grassroots work with RD Rocks, but well, it's gotten around a little bit. Steve Witten has used promotional stuff from there and used it in Arizona. But my goal that I would really like to do as a board member is I'd like to create this customizable pamphlet template. And it sounds funny, but basically it's something where sanghas can replace some text and instantly get a beautiful pamphlet. So hear me out. If a pamphlet specializes in a topic and affinity groups specialize in a topic, then that means that any affinity group that wants to will be able to really easily put out this wonderful pamphlet. Let's say, for example, there's a mindful eating group that has some really good techniques on how to stay renounced, and they just want to share it with everybody. With this customizable pamphlet, then they'll be able to do just that. And then naturally over time, maybe some other gurus and professionals, they can peer review it, and eventually it'll be revised to the point where they can submit it to RDG for approval. And then once it's approved, we can share it with the worldwide community instead of just being stuck inside that affinity group. But wait, there's more. So let's scale that. There's many sanghas and special groups all over the world. So imagine that we have these pamphlets that are approved for treatment and corrections, internet and technology addiction, pornography addiction, meditation logs, self-care, family support, everything, the whole gamut. And if every one of these is approved, then that means, in my understanding, if we reformat it to the page of the book, then that means we can just stick it in the appendix. And instantly what we have is extra pages to the book that are instantly contributed by the community, already approved and peer reviewed, and are relevant to the latest addiction topics. And I think that's where the future is. Hopefully we can work on that. I think this will empower the community and really help RDG as a whole. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. And then we have Steve.
Thank you. Projects I would like to work on right now. I see this on the Facebook group, the unofficial one, where I volunteer as an admin, people looking for meetings. Right now, there are too many deserts in Recovery Dharma where people can't get to a meeting. We need to make it easier to start meetings. I strongly feel that in order to practice inclusion, we've got to reach people. We have to make it available. Otherwise, it's just a theory and a thought exercise. That's part of the reason I've done so much work reaching out over the last few years. So whether elected or not, I'm going to be involved in treatment and corrections, whether it's a circle or a committee, whatever becomes of it. Right now, there's a tab on the web page that needs some work, but these meetings are different. These are people that are oftentimes at the lowest point in their life when they're starting to recover. They haven't developed the discernment that we have with some experience practicing. A lot of them don't know what Buddhist recovery, let alone Recovery Dharma is. So these meetings, they're different from the meetings that people walk in off the street. I've spent countless hours on the phone sharing my experience with others. And we can do this more efficiently by having some resources for people that would like to do this work. I truly feel that this could be a sustainable way for our growth. And people in early recovery, when they find Recovery Dharma and that's their mode, they're going to be more enthusiastic about serving. Having done this, I've seen the light turn on, the light of hope, light of I can recover, light of I can accept myself for my mistakes through Recovery Dharma. I've seen that turn on in thousands of people. And I want everybody to be able to experience that. And a lot of that, I've volunteered with communications. friend Tom worked on a dyslexia-friendly version of the book. That's in the works. A lot of supplemental materials are in the works. And getting the word out there through communications, whether it's social media, emails, that ties in hand with work that I love doing at treatment centers. Thank you. And speaking of treatment centers, it gets expensive with the books, but luckily they really love the flyers. Did I mention that I printed out over 10,000 sheets of paper and given those out? So getting involved with treatment corrections, whether elected or not, and continuing to serve on communications, I just want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And now I'll turn it to Chris for questions that have been posted. And then this next round, we'll switch up the order a little bit on who would go next. Go ahead, Chris.
Hello, everyone. And we're also going to switch up a little bit. Vanessa's going to take over timekeeping. So thank you. So what we'll do now is basically we'll go in the same order, but we'll just change. So instead of Jim starting, it'll be, hold on a second, I kept this. It'll be Bryant starting, and then we'll just kind of switch it off. So everybody will kind of have a turn to be first and last. So if you have questions, just go ahead and send them to me, and I'll pose them to our panelists. We have questions from some of our previous town halls. So unless or until I get something directly from this group, I will start with some of those questions. Let's see here, make sure, just kind of double check in the chat to make sure that I haven't missed anything. Okay. All right. So okay. Thank you, Stephen. Let me start with the first one here. I'll get to the one that I just received, but the first one is 2 minutes. And then the question is, so all of these are going to be 2 minutes, by the way, Vanessa. What concrete actions might you take to support underrepresented membership groups and honor our organization's core intention to encourage inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility? Thank you, Vanessa. And so we will go with Bryant first.
Come with both guns blazing, I see. No, thank you for the question. So, I think that's a lot of the work that, especially in LA, we have such a diverse city, and it's a very large area, but the folks who come to our meetings tend to come from specific places, right? They either Buddhist center or someone there sponsoring, and we really have a hard time reaching a lot of those diverse places. So some of the things that we've done in the past, and we're planning on doing LA, a lot of it is intentional outreach. I like what Steve says, making it accessible, and that's why I really like with Recovery Dharma. The book is at least cheaper for us, and so some of the things that we could continue doing is identifying underrepresented groups, places that probably don't have the resources necessary, and having a targeted book drive, sending them copies of the book, offering volunteers who can come support maybe once a month, come speak to these groups. We can come to you. We don't have to worry about inviting you places, but also sharing what might be going on in your area. And then I like the idea of having potentially easier ways of starting meetings. So maybe some of the other works that we can do is helping local areas that aren't as well supported, identify places they can go and meet. What is it that we as a global Sangha, with our resources and the people we know, do we know places and nonprofits that will be willing to open their doors to us? And so kind of making those connections so that groups that are underrepresented don't feel they have the power or the opportunity.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Can reach out to us, and then we can provide the direction or resources to those available. So I think finding different ways of making it easier for them to connect with us and then connect with each other would be probably the best way. So again, maybe book drives, sharing the books, connecting with other nonprofits or Buddhist temples or communities within these areas to start setting up places they can meet. And then offering ourselves, maybe we can come to a Zoom once a month if you're meeting. We can share or host a meeting. I mean, that is probably the easiest thing we can do, our time at whenever they meet, and come to them.
Thank you very much. Valentine.
Ditto what Bryant said. But I really, Bryant, one of the things you just said that stood out to me was reaching out to Buddhist centers, because what I was really impressed by the the Recovery Dharma meeting here in San Diego that I'm a part of. It was actually started by the person that runs the Buddhist temple here. It wasn't necessarily started by just a group of people in recovery. It was started as this person just seeing the need for Recovery Dharma being here in this area. So I could just see that being really helpful in areas that don't have Recovery Dharma meetings, that have diverse populations that really could use this kind of service, could use the Recovery Dharma community, but we don't necessarily have someone there to start it. There could be centers out there that would be willing to start it and promote it. So I think that's a really good idea. And other concrete actions that I would take to support underrepresented member or groups, to honor our organization's core intention to encourage inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility. I really love our idea committee. I would continue working on that committee. I think that we could do more to support the groups that we have already, like the LGBTQ groups, the BIPOC groups. I think there's more that we could definitely do to support them, to help them flourish. I think that we could get the word out even better. I believe that it's important for our summits to take place in places that are, have diverse populations, not have our summits in places that are just primarily white, and not have like a lot of accepting morals in those communities, or I don't know. So I just think those are really important. That's really my answer to the question. Thank you.
Okay, Thomas.
Great, thank you. Yeah, this is a interesting question to me because I feel like I am underrepresented. I am a transgender BIPOC person with an addiction that's stigmatized, that people don't talk about, that's shamed. So what I might do is different than the things I've already fulfilled that I've done. So I'll talk about the things I've done. When I noticed that there was 3 male audiobooks and 0 female audiobooks, I thought it wasn't fair to victims of male trauma or abuse. So I crowdfunded it and produced a first female audiobook and released that with the Ari BIPOC Sangha. Speaking of which, I'm one of the co-founders of the Ari BIPOC Sangha accidentally, which is really weird. I thought I was just a volunteer. I thought I was the Asian person being sent as the IT person to help them. But it turns out I was BIPOC, and I was just as important to showing up every week, week after week, building this Sangha and laying out these rules that help people feel safe. Now we have 4 of these meetings that uphold all these values of accessibility and DEI. And I've also co-founded a beautiful Sangha that we call True Intimacy, Third Precept, where we can talk about love, lust, sex, and porn in a beautiful way, where our goal is true intimacy. We're not looking at this. We're trying to stop masturbating thing. But anyways, if I'm on a board, I'm just going to simply continue to do the same. And I hope that I can inspire others. Thank you.
Oh, Chris, you're muted.
Okay, next is Steve.
Well, thank you. Thank you to Recovery Dharma for helping me grow. As a cis, white, straight male, I do not know what it's like to be marginalized because of my ethnicity or sexual orientation or my gender. I do know what it's like to be poor, but The best I can do is I can be an ally. I can listen and I can advocate. Um, Idea and Global have done great work of setting the foundation for this with inclusivity and recovery Dharma. And what I've done and will continue to do is try and, like I said before, take it to the people. I've been able to introduce recovery Dharma to people of the Havasupai tribes, the Dene or Navajo, the 3 affiliated tribes in North Dakota, all the way from Arizona. I'm most proud of the meeting that I founded at Crossroads Extension campus. That's a women's campus. It's part of the biggest treatment center in the Southwest. And it's also government funded. These are some of the people that have suffered the worst. They've sold themselves. They've been on the streets. They're getting ready to be incarcerated, or they're just coming out. Suffering that I can't imagine. I've been able to take recovery Dharma to them. And I haven't facilitated that meeting in 6 months, except for a couple of times when they need someone to fill in. So every time that meeting's been facilitated, it's been facilitated by a woman, including
30
African
seconds.
American. Thank you. Including African American women, lots of Latino women, Native American women. So even though I don't know what it's like, I can be an advocate and I can take it to people. And I hope that as we get more resources together, it'll be easier for other people to do the same.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. First of all, thank you to everybody who answered before me. Those are all amazing responses. I wish I had something as profound to say, but I don't. Like Steve said, there's a certain level that I don't understand. Just being a regular white guy, cis white male. I'm straight. However, what we do, our sangha is very diverse. What I do is, so what I do for my part is, when we have our monthly, we call them business meetings, where we try to delegate commitments and various roles to keep the meeting up and running. We really try to keep that diverse. Like, for example, our facilitator role, we switch that up every 2 weeks. We try to do it every month, but people would flake. So we just kept it short every 2 weeks. Then the other various roles of like setting up the bolsters, being in charge of the books, having like a greeter at the door type of thing. That's like a monthly commitment. But we try to keep those roles as diverse as possible. So then that way, for one, when somebody brand new comes in, and if they are of of like an LGBTQ background or a minority background, and they see somebody who looks like them leading the meeting, or they're greeted by somebody who looks like them, welcoming to the meeting and showing them the way to the bolster and just showing them around the place, for me, I found that the best way to get the word out is word of mouth. So if the people who are in our meeting, if we make them feel welcome and make them feel included, so that they are included, that word gets out. They tell their friends. We have a lot of recovery houses, male and female, LGBTQ, all those types of recovery houses are all throughout the city of Philadelphia. So when the buzz gets out that, hey, you're welcome at this meeting, there's no phonies there. They're not going to sit there and act like, hey, we love you. And then as soon as you go outside, they ignore you. No, like, we're all friends. We get together. We have dinner. So that's the best I can say. That's all we would do, is just make everybody included, and the attraction spreads from there.
Thank you. All right, our next question is acknowledge, and I'm going to put this a little bit context too, acknowledging that renunciation takes many forms. How long have each of you been clean or sober or abstinent, or however it is that you define being in recovery? And the first person for this question will be Valentine.
Wait, so the question is just how long we've been in recovery?
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
I printed it, but that's the essential question. Yes.
I think it's a great question, and one thing I love about Recovery Dharma is that we are able to define this for ourselves. Because when I first entered into recovery, I was counting time, and counting time, there was a lot of pressure to count time. And when I counted time in my early recovery, it made my relapses, made my, or what I like to call slips, worse. It made them so, because it was like, oh well, if I'm losing this much time, I might as well make it count, right? And that was the mindset that I had. And so I stopped counting time. And that helped me so much. So I don't know, but I think that it's important to let people count time how they want to count time. I think it's important to honor people and how they define their sobriety, how they define their recovery. I personally define my recovery as I've been in recovery for the last 6 years. That's how long I've been taking my recovery seriously, how long I've stayed connected to community and to my recovery. That doesn't mean that I haven't had hardship. That doesn't mean that I haven't had slips. And every time I've had one of those, I've come to my community with honesty about what I've gone through. And those experiences too are the experiences that I've learned the most from. When I've struggled again, when I've gone through a slip, that's when I've gained more information than I could get from a book, because I really learned what my personal triggers are and that my personal dangers are in recovery. So yeah, so that's how I define my recovery. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thomas.
Thanks. This is a really good question. I started recovery about 2008, and it was all 12-step based, and I was always doing the counting. And it wasn't until I found this different fellowship that was process addictions based, where we got to define our own recovery, that things changed for me. And I started to realize recovery is not a straight line. It's not a straight line. And that relapses happen, and that's normal. And instead of relapsing and feeling ashamed and not telling my sponsor or mentor or not coming back to the rooms, I could feel like I could get back up. Lately, it's been about 4 years that I haven't used substances, but I know that I went to a retreat for recovery from sex last weekend, and there was a room of 200 people, and they asked who was in their first 30 days, and there was about 80 people that said they're in the first 30 days. So that says something about process addictions. And so if we're counting based on kind of like such stringent rules, I think it's so much better to say, I've started from this day and I've been working hard since this day, and I shouldn't flunk back to preschool if I have worked through college already. Thank you.
Thank you. The next is Steve. And Steve, I am working to get it into the chat, but I will repeat it for you. Let's see. Acknowledging that renunciation takes many forms. How long have you been clean, sober, or abstinent? And then I added that we define recovery. You can just say how long you've been in recovery. That's the context that we, as folks have mentioned, we define it in many different ways. So the next person is Steve. Thanks.
Thank you for repeating that, Chris. I didn't want to miss any nuances of the question. I've been abstinent from substances since October 10th, 2018. My recovery continues. My last full-blown craving for a substance was October of 2020. I remember it vividly because the tools of this program had me look into it and investigate it. But when it comes to processes, I've, social media, my speech, my continued spiritual growth, growing as a human, as a person, getting rid of myself so that I can understand the plight of others. That is an ongoing thing. And that's been made possible by following that fifth precept. I still distract. And I do it on purpose, and I forgive myself for it too, because as a person in recovery, or hell, just as being a human, there are things I still can't handle. There will always be things I can't handle, and I need to distract, and I accept that. And that's thanks to this practice of recovery Dharma. So, like I said, abstinent for 4 years and change, but still continuing to grow.
Thank you very much. Next is Jim.
Hi. Yes. So I've been in and out of recovery for the better part of 9 years. I do not have 9 years abstinent of, of substances or what have you. The last time I put a substance, drugs, alcohol into my body was May 24th of 2020. So, assuming I'm still breathing, I will have 3 years in next month. That's again, that's drugs and alcohol. As far as process addictions, that's tricky because I didn't recognize any of my process addictions until I got off of drugs and alcohol. Now, and then through practicing recovery Dharma, I can be now more aware that hey, I spent a little too much time on my phone, or hey, maybe going on these certain websites, that's not too healthy. It's not a good way to behave. So yeah, so for the most part, I like to count my time. I count my time not for me though. I've learned that and if people choose not to count their time, that's great. A lot of my friends don't count their time. I count my time, but I count it. For one, I'm a goal-oriented person, so I like to set goals for myself. But I understand that it's all about today and what am I doing today. I have a history of relapsing on anniversary dates, but that's when I made those anniversary dates about me. Those anniversary dates are not for me anymore. I've learned that. So if I get 3 years, that 3 years isn't for me. It's for showing people just coming in, like somebody who was in Kensington last week shooting dope, that, hey, one day at a time, those days do add up. And I
30
can see how,
seconds.
sure. Yeah, that's it. I'm good.
Thank you very much. And Bryant.
So the short answer, it's over 5 years from alcohol. I remember because it was one of the last trips to Vegas and I got caught smoking meth. I was 5 days clean and decided I was the only single person with couples, and that was not good for me in my non aware life. So that was the last time I did alcohol because it led me back to meth, and I still did meth. It's been over 4 years since I've done meth and everything else. So from the substances, the drugs, where I used to escape, that's how long I've had. I've been in recovery since 2017. I'm very aware, thanks to everything in recovery, the program, even 12-step, of it's never the substance that is my problem. And so it's just a sign when I have a craving, when I want to escape, that there's something in my life that I'm not addressing. And I'm very aware that I have a social media addiction. I'm very aware that I have loneliness and I have codependency issues that cause me to spend more time seeking affection from people who, in ways that aren't healthy for me. And so what I love about Recovery Dharma is, regardless of where we're at, the ways we mean to escape, the way I explain it, or at least I understand it, it's a sign. It's a sign for me to pause and really ask myself, what's going on deep inside that I need to be tender with, I need to accept, I need to work through. And that's a lot of what I heard from everyone on the panel. It's, recovery, again, takes many different forms. We don't lose time, I believe, when we relapse or have a slip or we have a craving or we have a thought. It's just part of the human experience.
30 seconds.
Thank you. It's a matter of how we are using these moments in time to really identify where we probably need to be a little more kinder, where we need to get help. I need help. I feel a craving. Let's talk about it. So that's how I've approached it. I'm not doing so well with the loneliness and social media. It's a work in progress, but at the same time, I can accept I can accept it because I'm human. And this is part of just what it means to be just another person on the path. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The next question is, how do you handle interpersonal conflict, or how would you handle conflict with another board member? And so this time our first person is Thomas.
Right. So when it comes to conflicts, the first thing that I do nowadays, well, first I've learned a great deal that it's really important to stay in goodwill with everyone. And I've learned so much from the fact that most conflict just occurs from a temporary misunderstanding. But anyways, the first thing that I do is assume goodwill. What I say is harm comes from a place of pain, fear, and confusion. And the mantra I use is all of us are unskillful at times. And that really just kind of levels out the playing field, and it humbles me. And yeah, so that's the first thing I do. And then I go by the fourth mindfulness training of Plum Village, which says that if anger is manifesting in me, I'm committed not to speak. I will practice mindful breathing and mindful walking and basically look into myself and see what's happening. Why am I so attached to this? And try to look at it and figure that out. If there's a way that I can speak to transform the suffering, for example, do I need to apologize? Are there tools that I can use that that eases their pain? And then the one of the later things I can do is I like to pull in a mutual friend that we both trust to try to get us to both understand each other and have a compromise. And if that
30
doesn't work,
seconds.
thank you. If that doesn't work, then I'm good with saying detach with love, assume goodwill, and remember that we're not getting paid for this. We're all here because we love Recovery Dharma.
Thank you very much. Steve.
Well, personally, selected, I can't wait for the conflict. I look forward to it. The board is a very diverse group with different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different orientations, sexual orientations, and different backstories. So we're not going to see eye to eye on everything. You can tell, if I mentioned, I'm really into getting the word of Recovery Dharma out to people and getting into treatment centers. I'm pretty gung-ho about that. I can be bullheaded. Other people have their things that they're going to be bullheaded about. And we can work together on things. I can help another board member with their project. They can help me with mine, but I can always go back to the Eightfold Path, looking at intention. Well, I just used a little bit of wise understanding, but looking at intentions, we are all people that want to help people. We're all people that are generous, or else we wouldn't be doing this. So we have that common goal. When it comes to being in the moment, I can practice wise speech. I can always reflect on what I've done wrong. I recently had an issue with my girlfriend. I was bullheaded in the moment. I lacked understanding. I did my best to be wise in speech. I failed in that a little bit, but I came back to it. I acknowledged it. I did my best to let her know she was heard. And that's what I will do with the board, is do my best. 30 seconds, thank you. Is do my best to listen, let people know they're heard, use my speech in a non-attacking manner, speak from my heart, and just use the Eightfold Path. The tools are in the book. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jim.
Okay. So regarding like how like interpersonal conflicts, You know, that's a tough one to answer because that's something I still struggle with. Typically, if I'm having some type of struggle within myself, um, normally it's myself blowing something out of proportion or me reading too much into something. I try to talk to somebody who knows me well, whether it's someone in my song or just someone who knows me and loves me. And I tell them what I'm going through and what this what's going on with me. And a lot of times they can kind of bring me down and help me make sense of it all. Because yeah, a lot of the conflicts, you know, within myself, it's just, you know, all the stuff going on up here, you know, yada yada yada, you know, and it's usually me making something out of nothing or me reading too much into something, and blowing something out of proportion, you know, projecting too much. As far as conflict with a board member, well, I think communication is key, obviously. I really like what Thomas said. Like a lot of times a lot of times we want the same thing and we're saying the same thing. It's just the way I interpreted what Thomas said was like, we want the same thing, but we're just communicating about it differently. So we both have the same wants. We both have the same goal in mind. Just our presentation might be different. And I guess from our various different backgrounds, we might misconstrue things the way somebody is saying something to us. When ultimately, at the end of the day, we still want the same thing. We have the same goal. So I think communication is best. Sometimes I think it's best to just kind of let things be, let things settle, so to speak. Maybe the person I'm having a conflict with is going through something in their personal life, and I need to be mindful of that. And their disagreement with me, it could be something going on with them, and it's not me personally. And that goes for me as well. Sometimes if I'm disagreeing with somebody, it's not them personally that I'm disagreeing with. There's something going on in my life, and that's just triggering me to act out or have a reaction or an opinion on something. So I think it's best. Yeah, I mean, I just think communication is key. Even if we agree to disagree on something, that's okay. That's okay. You know, as long as we handle ourselves like, you know, like adults, you know, that's it.
Thank you. All right. Next. Oh, my little big list came up. It's Bryant.
So I have a habit of ghosting. And I'm upfront with that. You know, avoid, let the other person have their way. It's kind of like the natural tendency that pops up. And I've worked with this program and others to recognize when that comes up, there's something I need to lean into. So usually when there's conflict or a disagreement, that's my cue to first be aware that I'm starting to pull away and there might be a disagreement. Really see and really examine why I'm pulling away. And I love what Tara Brach says, thoughts are real, but not true. So I try to keep that in mind. Like whatever I'm thinking about this person or what actually happened is not really the whole facts. It's not the whole perspective. So I take a moment, kind of reflect, okay, what am I believing? What are we trying to do? Because I love what everyone said. What's the intention? What are we trying to get to? What's the story I'm believing? If I need a timeout or they need a timeout, I give space. I try to my space and maybe seek a friend or someone I trust to kind of walk through the facts. But ultimately, it comes down to, can I reach out to you? Let's have a conversation about what is it that, acknowledging how I felt, how you felt, what did you think it was going on? What are we going on? What are we trying to do here? And then coming to an agreement or a disagreement. But I think giving us as human beings a chance to just express where we're at and fully explain, because in meetings or like here we have 2 minutes. So let's give ourselves a little bit more time than 2 minutes to really flesh out what's going on. And if we disagree then today. We're part of a board with more members, so I'm sure we'll
30 seconds.
have more opportunities to vote, not vote, and find ways to come to a common agreement on something.
Thank you very much. Valentine.
This is a question I always prepare for when I'm going into an interview for work, because there was one time I had an interview and they asked this question and my answer was I just described a conflict I was currently in and it wasn't how I handled the conflict. And I didn't get that job and it was embarrassing. But no, how I like to deal with conflict, honestly, is just with a lot of kindness and understanding. I always try to look at what my part in the conflict is and try to, apologize as soon as possible, or just, just acknowledging that I took part, I have a part that I played in this conflict. It's really nice when I really prefer it when I can deal with the conflict sooner than later. I'm someone that can get over conflict really quickly. I currently live in a house full of a lot of people, like a ton of people, and we'll get in conflict, but like 2 seconds later we're laughing together, and that's how I usually maneuver through conflict. Is I can get over it pretty quickly. It's really nice when both parties are willing to show up and talk it through if needed. Sometimes we can just let it go. Sometimes I can just let it go and I don't need to discuss it. If it's something that's lingering and it's a conflict that's continuing to go and it's continuing to get people activated, then it can be important to take some space, take some time, and come back to it, or have some kind of mediation. Um, but yeah, I usually try to just nip it in the bud and get it right away, and
30
just
seconds.
have lots and lots of kindness, lots of understanding. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question is, have you been convicted of a felony? Are you currently on criminal felony or misdemeanor probation or parole? And one of the things that's important to us as the facilitators of these town halls is to make sure that we have a context that that people who have lived experiences with being involved with the criminal justice system are both welcome and valued in our leadership. And so, some folks have answered this, and some folks want to hear answers. That is there something that might preclude some of the legal obligations of being on a board, or some of our value systems, especially around boundaries and assaults. But the other way is to talk about lived experience and how that might contribute to your experience as a board member. So the first person for this question is Steve.
Thanks, Chris. So short answer, no. My record is clean as a whistle. I can get onto nuclear facilities, refineries, some of the toughest places to get into with background checks. But the second part of that is I firmly believe I owe that to the color of my skin. When I was caught with marijuana when I was 17, when I was a lookout for thefts in my teens, as well as drunk driving in my 20s and even 30s, I got let go by the police officers. And also, due to the color of my skin, I did not grow up with that fear of something happening to me. So I've been able to effectively communicate with police officers, and that has saved my ass. So, no, I have not been convicted.
Thank you very much. Jim.
No, I've no felonies. My record's pretty clean as well. I got in trouble like years and years back. I'm going like probably like 17 years ago. Just like minor stuff I did in active addiction. But I like when I apply for jobs, I don't get caught up in anything, and like nothing to stop me from getting a job. So if I have a misdemeanor still, I'd be surprised. But yeah, no felonies, nothing like that.
Thank you. Bryant.
So no felonies. I did have a DUI, misdemeanor DUI, back when I was 25. Thankfully, it's off the record. And I like Steve what you said, because I am like haunted is I guess the word, or I always knock on wood, but I know I have a lot of people that I used to smoke with who weren't as lucky as me. I remember coming from a party and I was sweaty. And I had a bag full of stuff, and I got pulled over. I was leaving the hotel room, and the cops pulled me over. I don't know why they were there, but they saw me, all fun, I guess. I had, a couple of rocks of crystal, I had a bunch of G, I had ecstasy. It's all in the backseat. And then the sad part was I also had expired tags, and I thought I paid for it. So I was even arguing with the cop that I paid for that. Like, why'd you pull me? And they let me go. And I think it's, a lot of it is I do recognize I live in a privileged area. I come from a part, the car I was driving was well maintained, I guess. There are a lot of scenarios I can put on the fact of how I look, how I dress, how I act, that it saved my ass, like Steve said. So I'm very cognizant of when people approach us and, they say, I have a felony. I'm like, you know what? All we can do is be honest with ourselves. If you have a felony, if you've done X, Y, and Z, because I've done things that I still regret and hold myself accountable for, even though I'm not caught. Thank you. All we can do is be honest. And, where the chips fall, they do. And, I know this question is important for some of the board work, but I always tell people, just be honest with who you are. This was your past. It doesn't mean it's your future. Fucked up things may have happened to us. We may have made fucked up decisions, but it doesn't mean we're fucked up people. So we have the opportunity in the program with our practice to choose who we are today. And, sometimes the door is going to close because of what we've done in the past, but there doesn't mean there isn't other doors open for us. So we serve how best we can. So I'm grateful that you asked this question. And I hope that we still continue to have space for people to share those experiences as board members and volunteers.
Thank you very much. Valentine.
Hello. I have such mixed feelings about this question. I don't know what I know I do not have a felony. I'm not on parole. I'm not on probation. I don't have any misdemeanors. I have such a hard time with this question because the criminal justice system, it already negatively impacts people so much, and it's not a fair system, and it's not about actually helping people, which I feel like the system really should be more about. It's more about punishment and not understanding. So I have a really mixed feeling about this question, especially because I have a lot of trauma from being a youth that was caught up in the system when I was younger, mostly because I had really abusive parents, and they didn't, when they couldn't deal with me, they would just put me in juvie basically. So I have, this question weirds me out, but I also appreciate that this is something we can all talk about honestly and transparently. So thank you.
Thank you. Thomas.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for asking this question. I could have easily been. I haven't, but I've qualified for things that could be, and I'm just really happy and lucky that I haven't. I want to keep my karma that way. Part of my living amends is giving and being of service, and part of that means if I have to put my own money into things, but that's just sort of part of my living amends. I don't know why that's important. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you very much. This will be our last question. It will be a simple, straightforward one. You'll have 1 minute, and the question as it's formed is, have you participated in an RD inquiry group or done the inquiries on your own or with a friend? So basically, just kind of just a 1 minute little share about what your experience is on our path with the inquiries. Jim Saka, you are first.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. No, I have not done inquiries. I'm looking to do such. I have a friend that we spoke about doing that with. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I wish I could say I have, but I haven't. I'm looking to do something more structured, more recovery Dharma based. I've done step work through other programs, but not recovery Dharma. I've just read the book and done my part to help others. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Bryant.
Yes, and I help the people I mentor start their inventories, or sorry, that's so hard. Inquiries. So we talk through them. We'll listen to a couple of inquiries.
All
I
right.
haven't been part of an inquiry. We've done inquiry parts of the meeting. So some of the meetings I used to host, maybe like every second or third week, to keep it fresh, we'll pick one of the inquiries, and then we'll just ask the question. And so they give the format, like, think about the question, maybe give one example, and then some evidence, not evidence, but like clarifying example. And that way people get a sense of how these questions are. So we've done it in the past. We haven't done it lately just because the group's been small, but haven't been part of an official group.
Thank you very much. Valentine.
Yes, so I've done the inquiries, and I'm currently doing the inquiries right now with a cute small little group that meets on Mondays. And it's really, I'd say the thing I like the most about it is it's just bringing me a lot closer together with people that I'm doing the inquiries with. So we have our own little wise friends community. And some of us have been in recovery for a long time. Some of us are brand new to recovery. And it's just really nice to just be in that really open space with each other. I will add, though, that for a long time I did not do the inquiries because I did not find them to be trauma informed, and I did not find them to be helpful in my recovery at certain times in my life. And so I always have been a proponent of, if people don't feel like it's the time for them to do it, I would never tell them they needed to do it, or that that's something that, they have to do, because that's how I felt about the 12 steps as well. And I used to hate the inquiries because I felt they were too much of a clone of the 12 steps. So I have always wanted us to have more than just inquiries for people to work through, because I don't think it's trauma informed for everybody. But I am grateful for the healing work that I'm getting from them right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thomas.
Thank you. I'm going to piggyback because I actually secretly thought that the 12 steps are secretly modeled after Buddhist inquiries, and that's why they work. But and Valentine seems to agree. That's pretty funny. Anyways, but really, I've done the inquiries a lot, at least a dozen inquiry circles with different groups, at least with 50 people. We've completed it. And I feel like it's like a pivotal moment of a person's recovery. Sorry. Some of us don't make it. Some of us feel like we would have never been here. And like for a bunch of addicts to meet every week, to meet month after month and follow through with it, I think it's beautiful and we should celebrate it. So I think, yeah, I really cherish the inquiries and I really try to help people do them. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Steve.
I have not formally done the inquiries. I've written some of them out on my own. I've sat with some of them. What I have done is I have made them part of my everyday life. The skill set of looking inward to really just be able to try and follow the Eightfold Path better, understanding why I am the way I am. I've worked with some of the questions with previous therapists, and it's work that I continue to do. I can't handle them all at once as they're written in the book, but I can take parts of them and work on what's coming up right now. That includes working on the stuff that I really don't want to face sometimes. But I kind of titrate, just like the book says. Do something easy, do something hard. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. I know that we have more questions and we are at our time. We're actually over time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this back over to our moderator, and I can read the dedication and merit, but our moderator will take us out and do the last part of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Chris. The nomination committee would like to thank all the candidates as well as the people who nominated them for participating in this process. We would also like to express our gratitude to the board for its support in reaching out to potential candidates and assisting with the recording of today's events. Finally, we would like to thank all of you who are watching this town hall live and in person. Please share what you have learned with your Sangha. Most importantly, register to vote. You can find the registration form at the recoverydharma.org/register-note-2023. I think Chris will put that in the chat as well. Finally, we're grateful for the volunteer work of all of those who serves on the nominations committee. Without the dedication of our committee volunteers, the work of the organization would not be possible. And Chris, you can read the dedication of merit. I can post the things in the chat for you so you can read.
I got
You
it.
just did. Okay, go ahead and read the dedication of merit then.
Yep. Refuge does not arise in a particular place, but in the space within the goodness of our hearts. When this space is imbued with wisdom, respect, and love, we call it Sangha. We hope that the pain of addiction, trauma, and feeling apart actually leads us back toward the heart, and that we might understand compassion, wisdom, and change ever more deeply. May we make the best use of our practice here, and whatever freedom arises from our efforts here today, may this be a cause and condition for less suffering and more safety in our world. Ding, ding, ding.